Welcome to Know Your Candidate podcast. This is an opportunity for candidates from across Tauranga City wards to tell their stories, their experiences, their reasonings in their own words. A format which gives them more than the public debates and profiles that you've seen already. An opportunity for the voter, the ratepayer, future resident to get to know who you want leading the city and, importantly, are they capable of doing so? Anne Pankhurst, a previous business owner, councillor and political junkie, will find out more why the candidates want to run, where they have come from, what they're going to do. So let's not wait anymore. Let's go.
Good morning, and we're here this morning with Bevan Rakoia from the Bethlehem ward. Good morning, Bevan.
Good morning, Anne. Thank you very much for having me.
It's okay. Welcome to Know Your Candidate podcast series. Our format today is to take that opportunity for a longer, more conversational approach so you, the candidate, can speak and share your aspirations for the city. We'll take about 20 to 30 minutes and answering prepared questions that you have no idea what's coming at you. The most important aspect of the election is that you vote and that you encourage everyone to vote.
Absolutely.
It works when we all engage, actively take part, learn about our candidates, understand what is important to us for this future of the city. So remember to share this through all of your channels and to follow us on Know Your Candidate series on thepodhub.com. So, Bevan, give us a very quick rundown on yourself, who you are, children, no children, what you've done in the past. Give us that brief bio on yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Anne. So again, I'm Bevan Rakoia, standing for the Bethlehem ward. Grew up and born in Tauranga, grew up in Judea. I've got two children, both at Bethlehem College. I went to Intermediate Otamoto College. I went off on a hospitality career after school. So I did work at a catering place at the Tauranga racecourse. So that took me to a lot of the other race courses around New Zealand. And then I found a career in hotel management, and that was through the opportunity actually came through a Rotary exchange program that I did with our local Rotary club, and that took me to Australia. But through that family, there was an opportunity to go and study hotel management after school. So that took me over into an international career of hotel management, Hooker Lodge in Taupo, Alman Resorts in Asia, and then there was a program. There was a hotel I did work at in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So that took me off to a ski resort and into a national park space, and had a really good experience with that. And then through that hotel, it took me off to Cambodia. So I lived in Cambodia for 8 years, worked in a hotel chain there, and then and I was fortunate enough to join a fund management company, and we ended up land acquisition and into rice production. And then then it was time to come home. So I met my wife in Cambodia. 2 girls were born there, and then we returned home about 10 years ago to just start a fresh career. So I went back to school, studied civil engineering to support my parents' business. So we are transport monitoring services. That is collecting traffic data for the local roading authorities. So we sit on Auckland Transport's traffic monitoring panel. We service 700 sites all over South Auckland, and then we have a small contract with the Tauranga City Council. So we've been servicing the traffic monitoring program for Tauranga City for many years now. So it's a little bit of civil engineering, transportation, tourism, catering and big events. And then also during COVID, unfortunately, our services were not essential services. So I ended up doing a bit of security work and supported the DHB and the Ministry of Health for all of their vaccination centres. And that was quite an interesting few years of working in that space and supporting the needs and the concerns of COVID in the community. So that brought me into a community environment to support Pacifica. And so through my professional experience, there was opportunities to join various community organisations. So I currently chair the board for the Pacific Island Community Trust, Bay of Plenty. We're a health and wellbeing provider, and then also I joined the Tauranga Hockey Association. So I'm on their board and leading their facilities group. And both my girls are playing hockey. So we're in that community family sports space, as well as myself being involved with the Pacifica Community Trust. So it's a bit of community services, transportation, civil engineering services, but this opportunity to be within the council space and within the local government space is really interesting to me. And given the growing migrants and Pacifica communities in our regions, it's nice or I can certainly see myself as being a voice for them, to ensure that their concerns is valued and there's a collective value of their ideas and their concerns and their needs, and how can I amplify that through the chamber and support those communities that also part of our wider community here. So yeah, that's a little bit of me. No, I enjoy. I'm from the Cook Islands, so we do have a very strong Cook Island community in Tauranga. So we're celebrating sort of languages and performing arts through various community grants, and so we're very resilient to know how to sort of uplift ourselves as a community, but also know how to celebrate our culture and language, and how can we share that with other ethnic groups in Tauranga. So yeah, so that's a little bit of me, Anne.
It's a good little bit, great little bit. So I actually think I know your darling parents, but one of the first questions was going to discuss governance, and you've clearly covered that, so I won't ask that question, except to ask, give or take a bit, how big are the budgets that you've been governing?
Currently, I mean, the government, probably just a little bit over between sort of $1.5 to $2 million as an organisation. It is we took so with the Pacific Island Community Trust, we did take a bit of a leap to try and use our services. So with social services and health, but how can we pivot to look at other revenue streams? And so it's because post-COVID, we certainly saw that as the borders opened, there were labour moving out, but we certainly need labour to come back in. So we took on that opportunity to try and cast a lens over any other revenue streams that we think will be viable for our organisation. So we're tackling this Pacifica labour mobility space for the aquaculture sector, and that's taken us to 3 regions. So in Tauranga, Opotiki, and in the Marlborough region. So we've done that over the last 18 months. And then we know that we're growing. So we have a strong relationship with these employers, and it is a pastoral care program, wellbeing led service supported entirely by the private sector.
Right.
And what that has done. Oh, sorry.
I'm just going to interrupt you a bit, because otherwise we're going to talk a lot about what you do rather than what you're going to do potentially as a councillor. So what would you consider the main role of the mayor and councillors?
On this campaign trail, what I've observed and what I've realised is that there's a very large gap between the disbanded council, the appointed commissioners, and then now we're going back into this elected council. So over that period, there's been what I'm hearing, what I'm understanding is that there's a big gap between the council and the community. So I think in the shorter term, in the next sort of, let's say the next 12 to 24 months, is to build that trust again with the community. And I know it takes a lot of doing to go and engage with each of the communities. So I think effectively as a communicator, as a council, I would like to think that maybe 2 of the councillors or 3 of the councillors from neighbouring wards to go and do the hard work and start connecting and building that trust with the community. And I think that leadership and bringing those voices and bringing that communication cage back into the chambers, then we can start working together with the mayor and the council to try and identify areas of concerns and how can we reduce any of the debt and what are our key priorities moving forward as a council. So I think that takes a lot of doing, and it's certainly not going to happen within the first 2 quarters. So we have to be on the ground to connect with the community and build that trust again. So I think all of those sort of things, so the communication in the short term is very key points, and then trying to prioritize our key project ideas to steer this vehicle in a direction that's viable and sustainable.
So the skill set I'd really love to drill down on is the ability and the experience in managing complex commercial and political environment. What skill set do you bring to that?
Listening and communicating. So for just for instance, in this labour mobility space, we've got a variety of stakeholders, central, local, and a community from the Pacific Islands. So all the Pacifica affairs, the various parties within government, the different visa settings. So all that complex, a very complex environment of connecting industries and stakeholders together to find the right visa setting. So it's the skill set I have in this space is being able to identify where are these key stakeholders or where is the right doors to open. What I have found in the last 6 months in this space is that transitioning from governments, between governments, the downsizing of the ministries have taught me that we've got to be a little bit patient and try to work out where does this industry sit? Once all the ministries are settled, which desk do we go directly to be able to voice our concern and to try and get progress moving forward? So patience and resilience is definitely, that's taught me a lot over my time working in this governance space. Being a very small community provider, and we're battling with other sectors in the bigger cities of Hamilton and Auckland. And why is it, as a very fast growing city, why are we not considered as a space where we can advance ourselves? So negotiation, convincing various stakeholders to get us the progress that we need. So right. I'm able to connect with various characters, various individuals, various stakeholders, and be able to pull the team together to get the outcome we need.
So, if funding for the huge infrastructure spend is one of the biggest issues facing the city, what would some of your solutions to find other funding methods other than rates be?
So if I can speak through a community lens, if there's so let's say, if the CBD is there for civic uses, if it's there to celebrate arts, language, if it's a food and beverage space, events, entertainment, how else can we build the major infrastructure to just get not so much a sort of a box, but sort of a fit, a space that's comfortable to be able to share and communities to be able to lead. So from the bottom of from the ground, we can distribute a lot of the doings and the communication and the practicing and a lot of the things out into the outer regions of the city, and we can distribute that. A lot of the other things, I think we're a very strong service organization community, And we should be looking at leveraging off that skill set to be able to uplift the communities. I don't believe we need a sort of very grandeur of a stage sort of setting, but we can certainly use the existing facilities that we have in our communities, uplift those so those communities can drive their spaces, and to be able to work towards being stage ready.
Okay, so given that you govern at large, that's how you govern, but you are representing your ward potentially as a ward councillor, but the collective action, when it's not what you think your ratepayers are going to be thrilled about, or some of your ratepayers, how would you manage that conflict between having to make a decision at large and then explain it to your community or to your ratepayers?
Not sure what you're getting at there, Anne.
Well, you're going to be making a decision. Let's say you'll make a
Sure.
decision about the amount that may cost the ratepayer of Bethlehem, and they don't either care or want it, or a decision might be made in one area. So you might pick the pool in Autumn-Multi over something in Bethlehem.
Sure.
So your ratepayers, who you advocate and represent for, feel strongly about that, but you have had to make a decision that they may not be thrilled about. So how would you manage that conflict?
Yeah. So so it's, I mean, we've got to, I think we've got to view it from a larger setting. We cast a wider lens on the entire city itself, and what is our function as a city? Are we there to, is Tauranga a city that supports the port of Tauranga? Or, how do we connect into that infrastructure? So I think we've got to tell the story through that lens. Now, any sort of amenities or, any assets that have more value in one ward than it will the other, I think it's just a discussion I think it'd be great to bring it into sort of a public domain for debating, just to get a bit of a consensus. So, well, if we invest in these in more housing on the Mount, but it's not going to affect, but a lot of the users in the Bethlehem wards will not have the opportunity, or, given a lot of the seniors in our Bethlehem ward may never use the CBD in the next sort of 10 to 20 years. So how do we offer something, how do we offer that compromise to those that may or may not use those services? So I think to manage the conflict, I think it's a heavy discussion that we have to face to our ward directly. I don't think it's something that we should hide in the chamber and make those decisions. I think it's something that we need to keep building that trust and that face value of the council and why we make these decisions. And then, and if the Bethlehem ward gets very, very upset that decisions are made to support other wards, but it will never have any benefit, well, then it's just, I suppose that's just the way things will have to be. But can then, as a candidate of this ward, or whoever sits in this Bethlehem seat, then can we leverage something else that the Bethlehem ward residents will benefit from? That will maybe the Mount ward residents may never come to Bethlehem to use some of the facilities. So I think it's going to balance. I think some things will balance out, but in face value of the actual costs, I think it's always going to be, one will be higher than the other.
So next question, and we're coming pretty well to an end. How to manage multiple competing interests? You're going to have reasonable rates, new funding models, infrastructure, debt and deficit. How will you choose between investing in growth versus rate relief?
Yeah, so I think it's a scale space, and I think if we look at sort of this 10-year plan and look what the interest rates are going to be, the rates are going to be at year 10, I think we've got to put markers and agree to those markers at year 1 and year 2 and year 3. and year 4. So looking at the short term and just coming up with principles that we can support. Okay, we want to reduce rates. We want to be fair value. Set those milestones in place, and then I think it's just a matter of discussing, going back to community to discuss. Okay, here's a set of priority. Here's a priority list. This is our recommendation of which one's on the first to go. And then I think we've just got to get a consensus from. Well, I'd like to see that we keep connecting and being transparent with the community to set those to set a sustainable priority list.
So, and just my last question is around where Tauranga sits in New Zealand Inc. So what is your reaction to the potential view that Tauranga is a critical part of New Zealand Inc. and its economic growth, so that we have to think more nationally often than locally, because of what happens here matters in that bigger picture?
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm for my strengths in this space, especially with labour mobility and understanding that Tauranga itself is a major corridor for seasonal workers. So taking that lens and understanding what does the private sector, what does the primary sectors, and how does that integrate into the city and support the growth of Port of Tauranga? So we're seeing a lot of the primary or the regional economic development space growing in the regions of Aotearoa, Whakatane, and Gisborne. So that whole corridor, and how does that feed into the Tauranga Eastern Link, and then how does that gradually move into Port of Tauranga? So that's the kiwi fruit, aquaculture space, forestry coming out from Taupo. So the regional roading and this roading of significance, and all our arterial roads that feed into our city is it's very, very crucial. And I think we've got to have an understanding as a council and as a region of how do we support this, and how do we communicate this with our other regional councils and come up with a viable long-term solution to ensure that that freight movement into our city is it's a clear pathway, but it will conflict our recreational spaces as a city. So I think if we get that understanding and that balance right, we'll have a very unique city that we should all be proud of.
Bevan, it's been a great conversation, and thank you very much. And I hope you've enjoyed this. And it sounds like you're incredibly passionate, particularly about your community and particularly about the immigrant workers. It's very crucial that we have them. And I think it really adds to it the flavour of our city. So thank you again for your time. And
thank you, Anne.
Remember to follow us on thepodhub.com and to promote your particular spot through your channels, and to remind everyone to vote. It's absolutely critical. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Tune in to the next episode of Know Your Candidate to be informed on who you want to run your city. Got feedback and like to comment your thoughts on the episode? Connect with Know Your Candidate on social. This has been the podhub.com experience. Check out thepodhub.com for other podcasts and how you can even do your own.